HTC got back in the game with a mid-range phone at the beginning of this year. I finally got my hands on the HTC Desire 20 Pro and was really looking forward to using this phone. In this full review, I'm going to show you if it met my expectations or not. Let's go! Hi there and welcome to Miss Mobile Tech. In this video I will show you all the pros and cons of the Desire 20 Pro after using it for a little over a week. Alright, let's start with the build of the phone. It is a plastic phone on the back and you feel it, of course, you can see it. It has a interesting pattern on the back and it is rounded off. It has a good sturdy feel to it. Yes, it is plastic, but it is a mid-range phone. And for me, I actually like plastic phones because I don't really need a case. They are strong. The edges are rounded off, so if it does fall, that will take the heat out of the fall itself. So yeah, I like that. The SIM tray is strong, nothing wrong with it, nothing wobbly. It's just strong and it is a dual SIM tray. No 5G on this phone, unfortunately, but hey, it is a mid-range phone of around 300 euros. And it has a dual SIM tray, but the second SIM tray, of course, can be used for a micro SD card up to 2 terabytes. But I won't overdo it if I were you, because most phones tend to get slower when you add a lot of extra memory to it. So I would not go further than about 128 extra, something like that. Maybe 256, but not more than that. Yes, my good friend, the 3.5mm jack is here yet again. Love it, love it, love it. Always very glad. If you watch my videos, you know why. For me, it has to do with adding a microphone to your video so you have better audio. But of course, you can also use it for audio in your ears. It's quite a heavy phone. It's 201 grams, which doesn't necessarily mean something bad over a long run. But if you hold it for longer times in your hand, you will feel it. It is a little bit more heavy than most phones. We then go on to the screen. It has a 6.5 IPS LCD screen. Yes, it is an LCD, but it is a mid-range phone, so you can't really expect them to use an OLED screen. The screen looks very nice. It gets really bright. I do have to say, when you look at it from the side, it does seem as if the screen is put on top of the phone. There's like a little layer, but it's not necessarily bad, but it does make the phone a little bit more thick. The Snapdragon 665 run very smoothly and also made sure that games were no problem for this phone. And due to the 19.5 aspect ratio, you get a lot of quality screen here. Of course, both to say, when you crank up all the settings in games like PUBG or Call of Duty, things like that, this is not the phone for that. But we're talking about a mid-range phone of around 300 euros, so keep that in mind. It is a great phone, but it is for a certain type of people. But coming back to the processor and the screen and aspect ratio, watching content on this phone is absolutely great. Images are very vibrant, clear. On the bottom there is a single speaker, and I have to say that really surprised me. The sound that comes out of that is very good for one single speaker. Of course, because it is an IPS LCD screen, there are a few setbacks, one of which is around the selfie camera at the front. There is a little bit of bleeding color, bleeding black around the selfie camera. You only see it when you have it on a widescreen, but it is there and it's a shame. And the biggest thing for me that I missed, but that is basically me because I was used to it, is there is no always on display function. Which means if I want to see the time, if I want to see any notifications, I really have to pick up the phone and unlock it to see them. If we're coming back to the sound, like I said, when watching content, the speaker really surprised me. And also when you are calling, when you are just inside the house, speaker is great to use. Call quality, everything is great. When you're outside, call quality is also still good for me, my experience. But when you put it on speakerphone, your microphone will pick up more of the background noise as well, which you won't hear. You will hear the other person perfectly and very crisp. But the other side of your conversation will hear a lot of interference from the outside as well. So if you do want to make a speaker phone call, for example, I advise you to use it indoors, because outside, well, everybody can hear your conversation. but it's also not very clear to them. If we're going then to the camera setup, it has 4 cameras on the back. Yes, 4. It has a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Okay, well, the macro camera is really, sorry, but not that good. I took a few shots with the normal camera and then went with the macro camera, and there wasn't that much added detail. The depth sensor, basically the same. I expected a little bit more from it. But I have to say the main camera, the 48 megapixel main camera, which is in fairness in everyday use a 9 to 12 megapixel camera, depending on which setting you use. These photos are very good. And if you then choose the 48 megapixel option, very good colors also. But I don't see that much of a difference between the 9 or 12 megapixels and the 48 megapixels. So it's there. So very nice photos altogether. I took some photos and videos. I have them here in my video, but also if you want to see some more, there's some more on my Instagram page. It's also Miss Mobile Tech. So if you want to go check that out, that's also fine. And if you like the video so far, it would mean a lot to me if you could leave a like or maybe sub to the channel if you like it. Then we go further to the ultra wide camera. They were talking about the cameras. The ultra wide camera does take in a lot more into the screen, but for me, I personally found it was more of a fisheye feel instead of like really an ultra wide feel. So I found myself not really using it that much. Video on this camera shoots in 4K, Full HD or HD. And although the images are sharp, colors can get a little bit washed out and there's basically no stabilization. So if you want to use it filming, keep it just still or on a tripod or something and the images will be very nice. But if you're walking, not so much. The selfie camera, last but not least, on the front is a 25 megapixel shooter, and this actually surprised me. It takes very nice photos. I do have to say there is a beauty filter which I always turn off, but even when you make a photo it still feels as though it's just a little bit too nice, too straightened, too, you know. But it did handle selfie photos very nice. I was actually impressed by this. So it's a very nice camera also if you want a good selfie shooter. I don't really use my phone for selfies. I mostly take pictures of the other side or videos, things like that, or I record with them. But what do you use your phone most for? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below. 5000 mAh battery is pretty solid. I can be really quick about that. It has USB Type-C charging 3.0 and it will get you from 0 to 100% in something around 2 hours, and usage is solid. You can easily get through 2 days, 3 maybe. I do not dare to say 4. It always depends also on how you use it. So, but the battery is really good. If we then look at the software, it runs Android 10 on the Android 1 variant. So that means basically no extra apps, no extra bells and whistles, and the response is fairly quick. Of course, it is a Snapdragon 665, so you won't get the quickest response, but for a mid-range phone, the response is pretty good. If we look at the fingerprint reader on the back, the response is okay. It's not the fastest, but it does get it right every time. So that's basically all the points about the phone in my review. One thing I do want to mention is a thing that I experienced multiple times. When lying in bed at night, I watch YouTube. Also, when I don't create videos, I watch YouTube videos on tech and everything because I'm just a nerd. But anyways, when I watch videos at night in my bed on YouTube, then after about an hour, it restarts just like that. I don't know if it were to happen on any other apps that I would be watching video content on my phone for over an hour, but this is what happened when I watched YouTube for about an hour straight, like every time a new video and on and on and on. Then it would just restart. After that, it would just work normally, but it would restart. Just something I wanted to tell you also. Okay, so if we then round up this video, who is the Desire 20 Pro for? Well, of course, if you are looking at the Desire 20 Pro, you are not a flagship user. If you want higher specs, if you want higher refresh rate of the screen, better cameras, better processor, bigger battery, If that is what you want, then this is not the phone for you, of course. This is the phone for the medium user, someone who during the day checks their social media, checks their email, does some internet banking, watches a video or two here and there, is a light gamer, maybe the smaller games. Then this is a phone for you. A phone that lasts 2 to 3 days on a single charge, that is very easy to process, has a great screen. So tell me, is the Desire 20 Pro something for you? I would love to know. Tell me in the comments down below, and I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe.